Hello and welcome everybody back to the Inside Our Galaxy podcast. I am your host, Eric Hernandez, as always. Well, it didn't take us that long to get back into the losing column, so not a good weekend overall, but the Galaxy lose 2-0 against Orlando City SC. We're going to talk about that game, recap it, give you our thoughts about that game. Of course, we got some Galaxy news going through, and then, of course, we have our preview of Colorado. Not that much to talk about, but we do have a good conversation for you guys for this episode. So, yeah, it should be good conversation today. Of course, with me, as always, is my co-host, LA Galaxy Central. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I have a busy week this week, so I'm doing a little more than usual, but hey, that can't be a bad thing all the time, so we'll just get through it, and yeah, I'm happy to be here right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a good thing that we're here to talk about some Galaxy soccer, even though there wasn't anything really positive about this weekend, but it's good. It's good to be here every week to talk about, of course, the LA Galaxy. And I guess we can just get right into our recap of Orlando. Like I said, Galaxy ended up traveling to the Sunshine State, known as Florida, where they lost 2-0 against Orlando City SC. Galaxy rolled into this game again with a two-striker formation. However, no Riqui Puig in this match because of yellow card accumulation. And obviously, right from the get-go, you can tell that there was a big difference without Riqui Puig in it. Galaxy really struggled in the first half offensively. Very little possession when they normally, they have a lot of possession in their games. Orlando ended up scoring one goal kind of near towards the first half, and then 15 minutes into the second half. Galaxy kind of put a little more offense into the second half, but ultimately, we couldn't turn the tide against Orlando, which resulted in a 2-0 loss. So, I mean, yeah, this was a game that, like I said, no Riqui Puig, and I think that we can both agree that this game needed some Riqui Puig in the lineup because it is a much different team when you don't have Riqui in there. And honestly, two things that can take away is that, well, obviously, number one is that you need a Riqui in the lineup. And then two, there was really no difference maker in this game. Like, nobody really stepped up. Nobody really became that playmaker, that difference maker. And honestly, yeah, this Galaxy team just looked sort of stale in this game. Like, there was really nothing you can say about it. There was no good offense, defensive mistakes that we had in this game. And honestly, the Galaxy looked stale, and this is what we've kind of been used to so far in this season. So, I mean, I think you would agree that, this was in the good result. And yeah, not having Riqui was just a big deal in this game.
Yeah, not only Riqui, I think even if he was still in the lineup, we still would have lost this game. Overall, it was just a shit effort from everybody. The coaching was very poor on Vanney's part. The defenders were obviously poor. The midfield wasn't very good in that new formation, and the strikers did pretty much nothing. We wasted chances. We didn't even create that many chances. We got dominated all over the field. It was a very bad performance overall.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and considering the fact that we said it last week that this Orlando team hadn't really been good at home. And I think this was their second win at home of the season, if I'm correct. And honestly, there was no game plan. It almost just seems that we're too reliant on Riqui in a sense. But no, yeah, even if you had Riqui in this game, which I think it would have made a difference. Like, I definitely think that having him is a very difference maker. I don't know if we could have won or not. I mean, that's I guess we'll never know unless he was there. But no, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just stale. Like, it really was stale. Nobody stepped up. Nobody was the difference maker in this game. And that's what you needed in this game, was a difference maker, a guy who was going to be more creative, a guy who was just going to just create chances, right? And think about what we said last year before we got Riqui, right? We said we needed that central attacking midfielder. We need somebody to create those chances, create something out of nothing. Like, nobody really did that in this game. And I feel like that really killed us in a sense. And I do agree as well that for Vanney, I think his tactics were really bad in this game, and his decision making. I think that also played an effect. But just overall, I think this was just more like nobody really stepped up. Everybody played poorly, and it really just cost us in a sense.
Yeah, it looks like the guys didn't really want to be there that day. There was a whole lack of effort, especially from some Pacific players we'll get into later. But overall, just like looks like there's a lot of guys just there to collect a paycheck. They didn't really care, which is very disappointing coming off their first win this season. You thought there would be, even without Ricky, a spark of energy, some effort, some, I don't know, just some more confidence. It didn't really look like that. They just kind of, from the first whistle, it didn't really look like they wanted to be there and kind of just laid flat and let whatever happened happen. And they got dominated that game. They didn't deserve anything. They didn't really were threatened at all. They didn't. You never thought they were going to get back into the game, and it was very disappointing all around. I think, yeah, just a very disappointing result overall.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And you just mentioned like there were just some players that didn't like look like they wanted to be there. And let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Douglas Costa, right? I mean, man,
It was
that guy was
rough.
just running. He was just running.
Not
I don't
even,
like
not
yeah,
even
not
walking.
even not even he wasn't just running because there was times where he would just be jogging. But no, yeah, I mean, like just the guy was a ghost. Like there was a reason why they took him off after the first half. Like that was
Embarrassing.
bad.
It
That
was
was
bad.
bad. Like at least last week he looked respectable. This week it was just like, what are you doing, man? Like this is really like, you were saying you were going on social media saying like, hey, like love, like thanks for the love, thanks for the hate, kind of getting that momentum or like that, I guess that confidence in you. And even then, it didn't really show in this game. It's like, man, like come on now, like this really, like at this point we're kind of used to this from Costa, which sucks that we're used to this, but yeah, I mean, obviously he was one big, he's the elephant in the room, knowing that he just did not perform well. And again, there was a lot of guys that didn't perform well in this game, which I guess I should ask you that. Which guys did you see in this game where you're like, okay, like yeah, this was like a bad performance by them?
Well, obviously, Costa was the worst one. I think his performance was shameful, honestly. A lot of the game, like someone did a thread on Twitter of him just walking around, not really trying, incompleting passes. You saw all the heel flicks he did, all the silly heel flicks. They were really bad. And yeah, I mean, Costa just, no, not good enough at all. He hasn't been good enough his time here. And it continues to prove the lack of DP production we get and how we just kind of value marketing over quality players. Like you see from other teams, some teams sign really good DPs. We sign DPs like that. And you get stuff like that from them that you can't really go forward with that. So yeah, Costa was definitely the worst player on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree on that part. I mean, also just again the little mistakes, right, as well in this game. We've kind of talked about it before that this team just makes mistakes
And they don't learn.
and they don't learn. Yeah, and honestly, like in these two goals, again mistakes. Like I just don't like, especially the first goal. Like I don't understand how that went through Klinsman. I don't understand how that ball even went past Jalen Neal, but and somehow just made it in the back of the net. I mean that's one goal where you're just like, man, like how do we give up a goal like that? You basically have the angle covered and you still manage to get the ball behind you. That really just sucks. Second goal, Zavaleta just that one was just like, man, what the hell? Like if you see the ball going into the nets, don't you think you want to clear it out
I
instead
think
of
so.
running with the ball? Like I mean seriously, like why did he run with the ball? You're supposed to like clear that, like he like I mean I just don't know how that was not cleared out. And just man, that really sucked. And honestly just terrible. Terrible. I will also say though, in this game, transition wise, we were terrible as well. Like we
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
defend, we couldn't produce anything on the transition. Like our transition play was just terrible in this game too. And honestly, that also made like Orlando get so many chances. And honestly, I'm surprised it was only 2-0. I thought it would have been more. Like there was a lot of chances where they could have really like made this more of a big deficit.
I feel like our entire offense is pretty much just launching the ball forward, pretty much. Especially the guys like Joveljic. With all due respect to Joveljic, he can't control anything to save his life. Like every time we try to play long ball to him, he would basically just not control it. It would bounce off him. It would go through him. Like we kept trying the same thing over and over again. And Chicharito doesn't really have the stamina to do that anymore. It's like we kept trying the same thing on offense, and it was so easy to defend. It's like we didn't even really test our land that much. Maybe we had a chance or two, but other than that, a majority of our offense was just it was easy to defend and you're not going to score goals playing like that. And like like Vanny and his subs were also really bad. Like you saw Tyler Boyd come off at halftime. I didn't really understand that. And like you don't really have any wingers either, so you kind of have to keep one on, but like he didn't do that at all. And Zavaleta is like when you're chasing a game, you bring on Zavaleta, it's like that's really bad. And you got to feel for a guy like Alvarez right now. Like when you're trailing in a game, I feel like he would have been a great guy to bring on, but instead you bring on Aguirre, who I think is a great sub when you're like it's a tie game or you're in the lead, you're trying to manage the game. But like when you're trailing by a goal, I feel like you should bring on a player like Alvarez, not really Aguirre. And I feel like that's kind of like if you're Alvarez, you're pretty upset by that. So I thought Vanny's overall just management of the game was horrible that day.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair on Alvarez, I'm pretty sure he's sort of like, I guess you can say he's sort of in the doghouse, right? Like we did give him his chance early on this season and really didn't do anything. But I would agree that Alvarez in these situations as a sub, you'd want to bring him in because that's when he's most effective. And yeah, honestly, just in general, the subs were just a bit confusing. I understood the Tyler Boyd one because I think Tyler Boyd came out and you put Zavaleta in, and that allowed Outlet to be more sort of like a wing back in a sense. And like, yeah, I understood that part. And like, but even then, there was a lot of defensive subs in this game where it's like, Vanny, like, her defense is not the issue in this game. It's
Hey
the
guys,
offense.
hold on to the 2-0 loss, guys. Keep it
Yeah,
together.
like seriously, like we're the issue is not defense. If in fact bringing on more defensive players made it worse. Like it's just like we need more offensive power. That's what we needed.
We just don't
And,
have that on this roster though, really. I mean, there's really a lack of depth you can see.
I mean, yeah, true. I will agree with that as well. But still though, it's like there wasn't much offensive. Like I think but we had three defenders go in and then one midfielder and then Preston Judd, who was the only, I guess, offensive player that went in. Well, I guess you could count Aguirre in there because he's more of like a yeah, I mean, I guess you can count Aguirre in that too, but like
Well, he's kind of middle though, like kind of defensive and he can go offensive. Like it's not really like a strictly offensive minded substitution.
right. So but regardless, it's just more like why did we get more defensive when we needed to get more offense and score goals? And I thought that was weird. And honestly, I want to pose the question, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this question, and you might not, but a lot of people, again, were talking about Greg Vanny and the hot seat. Do you think with how it's going so far, that seat is getting warmer for you?
That's tough, actually. Like, I don't know. I feel like I need some time to think about that, but just kind of off the bat, like, no, because I don't think this team is good enough. And with the transfer ban and all the drama going around the organization, you can't really put it on him. Like, again, we fired so many coaches over so many years and we haven't seen any improvement of results. So I think for me, it's time to change a different variable. And Vanny has proven enough to in MLS that if he has a team of his liking, he can get results. Like he's been to MLS Cup, he's been to CCL final, he's won MLS Cup before. So Vanny can do it in MLS and in the modern era. So I don't think he's the problem necessarily, even though I think he's been kind of bad these couple of games. But no, I wouldn't fire him, but it's certainly a question mark. He has to get it together because ultimately he did form this team and there's pieces missing to it. And unfortunately, we can't really improve. So unless we do something in the summertime, which I don't think is that likely. So, I mean, there's a lot to be answered for sure. We just got to wait and see. But it's getting warmer than it was, like I'd say in preseason, like a little bit warmer for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, I don't think that Vanny is necessarily the problem. But when you have these performances like this and the decision making that you have in this game, that's kind of like where I'm like, okay, yeah, the seat's getting a little warmer for you, pal. Like, and I'd like to kind of compare it to when GBS in the COVID season, right? Like, what I didn't like from GBS in that season was the fact that he never really had a game plan. He never really did anything different, you know? And that's what ultimately got him fired at the end of the day. And I sort of see the same thing with Vanny. And I do agree. We don't have necessarily the greatest players or the greatest depth yet. And, maybe with some of these players that we signed in the late transfer deadline, maybe they might step up. But even then, it's like we kind of see the same thing over and over again. And then at some point, we're going to have to ask ourselves, when is enough? And like when are we going to do something different? And again, I agree. Vanny, I think when we hired him, he was the great guy for the job, the right person. I still think he is the right person. I think that he has the credentials and the credibility to really do that. But it really isn't working in your favor if you keep having these games and keep making these, kind of stupid decisions in these games. And that's what kind of makes the seat warmer. Again, I don't think he should be fired because there's a lot of other variables for like why we're playing bad. But when you look at some of those variables, you're like, okay, like, we got to start thinking about it. But I don't know. It is an interesting question because a lot of people did bring it up. But again, I just think that it is getting a little warmer, but it's not to the point where we got to fire him yet.
I have a question too that I was kind of thinking about. Is the 2023 season already over? Like, seriously, is it already over, you think? Because think about it, like, we haven't even played midweek games yet. We have such limited depth, especially on the wings. We're relying on Costa and Boyd. Like, Costa, unreliable player. Boyd, what was the stat? Like, he played 45 minutes in like 9 months, I think. Mm-hmm. So, like, they can't play that often, really. They're not going to be able to play that many games when you include the Open Cup, the Leagues Cup. Like, what are we going to do? You're going to really have to get to like Memo Rodriguez and Efrain Alvarez on those wings because, like, what else do we really have unless you like move Aude on the wing or something weird or Edwards? But overall, your wing is a weakness of position, and I just don't see how you improve your team. And it's like, we're already 13th. It's not early in the season anymore. The summer window's in like a month. We're 10 games into the season. A lot of teams 11 games into the season. We're 13th in the West. Like, what are we really playing for at this point? Like, I'm starting to ask myself that question, like to get like 8 and 9 and get destroyed by LAFC or Seattle in the first round. Is that our goal for the season? It's like, I'd rather just be shit and miss the playoffs and get Chris Klein out of here, like he said in his message, and try to just make mediocrity out of the season. Do you think it's like there's still enough time to go like on this insane run, or it's just starting to run out a little bit?
I mean, honestly, like you're right. It's at some point it's not going to be early on in the season, and we're getting
not. It's already not for me.
Yeah, and I think I think we're getting there. I think we're getting to the point where it's not early in the season anymore. But we can talk about a little bit of this in the preview. But of course, this coming month is going to be really, really busy for us, considering how many games we're having, how many midweek games we're having, the amount of rotation that we're probably going to do in this month. And yeah, honestly, like I feel like if we, and again, I guess we can talk about it later, or just say it again, but if we don't have a good May, I think that's where we're like, okay, yeah, I start to see where the season is going to be, is finished, right? But again, we can talk about a little bit about that in the Colorado preview, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if I should say yes. I mean, I feel like, one win in 10 games is like, okay, like, yeah, that's like unacceptable. And I get the feeling why people would say the season's already over. Because if we only have one win in 10 games, what does that mean for the rest of the season, right?
Without midweek games, by the way, we're going to be rotating players.
Yeah. Yeah. That too, right? Exactly. But yeah, I mean, honestly, we just have to like, I think you can have that conversation. You can ask that question to say, is the season already over? Because, at this point we haven't really done much. And, at some point we're going to have to like, I guess, come to our senses and say, yeah, the season's over. I mean, and also there's expanded, playoffs, even though I don't count the playing game as a playoff, but it's still like, I guess, postseason. You still have to take that into consideration, which again, I wouldn't be happy if we went into the playing game, but I guess it's an opportunity. But no, yeah, I mean, I think that is a good question to ask right now. But to me, I'd say wait out May, see where we're at. If we can handle a tough May schedule, then I'll we'll see. But again, that's just kind of like right. I don't know. I think we're getting there to ask that question.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. The only reason I brought that up is because like earlier in the season, like we all kind of thought like since the window was open, like when we saw the bad results coming, we were like, okay, we can improve this team. We can improve this team. There's still time. There's still time. Then he's mentioning 2 signings, like, okay, 2 signings. Let's get the 2 signings in. We'll see how that is. Who are those names going to be? How big of difference makers are they going to be? Now that the window's closed officially, like this is who we have now, and it's just not good enough, especially when you look at the depth department and the starting is not very good either. And yeah, I feel like I have to ask that question now because we're not going to really improve this team. This is who we are now at the end of the window. You're not really going to do anything in the summertime. I mean, I tried to look at the summer window and I don't really see who we can really bring in that would be that effective for this team. So it's basically this for the rest of the year. And I just don't think it's enough, really. I don't think it's enough talent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, honestly, I don't see how this squad is going to be the playoff squad that we were hoping for, I guess, this season. I mean, again, somebody could break out, somebody could step up. Like, I guess there's enough time for somebody to step up and break out, especially some of these younger guys. But at some point, you're right. This is who we are. And unless we do something major in the summer window and in league, which is very tough to do, to get a really big name player within the league and during the summer, like I think that's, it's tough. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's tough to do. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, that this it is a concern too, considering that, this is, I guess, who we are, you know.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Open Cup and some of the other tournaments too, like you see the Open Cup, Seattle, they're unbeaten versus us 10 games in a row. Are we just going to go out early against them? So Seattle might beat us again, like they always do. So that might be the end of the Open Cup. Supporters Shield, forget it. We're like so far behind that already. MLS Cup, no chance. We're just not good enough to win that. And there's so many teams that are better than us. I don't even think right now we're that close to a playoff team with the way we're playing. And Leagues Cup, how much are we going to try in that? Like, do we care about that? Like, it just feels like we're kind of playing for nothing, basically, a little bit. I don't really have any belief. Like last year when we saw the Galaxy 2022 team, had so much momentum, so much confidence. We thought going into the playoffs they can do some damage, and we had the right to believe that. But this team just feels like disoriented, disconnected, and just not really together and clicking at the moment. And there's still a bit of time, but it's not early in the season anymore, and the window's not open to the point where you can say, "Oh, just give them time, let them improve." Like eventually, like we really, like you said, I think May is fair, but we really have to start seeing some sort of improvement if we want to have some more optimism.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I mean, it really is. I mean, it's kind of hard, just like, because you really want to say, like, yes, there's still time, which hypothetically, yes, there's still time, but then you also want to say, like, I mean, with how we're playing right now, like, is it going to be any different? Like you kind of have to ask those questions, and it's just like you just don't know, and we're just, and as like I always say, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But no, yeah, I mean, honestly, there's there's a lot of questions to be asked, so, like, and honestly, we're just gonna have to find out what those answers are later on. But no, yeah, I mean, it's rightful to ask those questions, but you know, whether we know the direct answer or not, we're just gonna have to find out. But yeah,
Yeah, kind of my concern is I've seen the same performances too many times. Like, remember against Seattle where we like had this good second half, like, oh, we're confident going into next week. We're building something that looks better. And then we go to Houston, we lose 3-0. And then we saw those two like kind of decent performances against LAFC. We put up a good fight. And then we finally got our first one against Austin. Like, hey, maybe this is a little bit of a turning point. Maybe we can see something good next week. Maybe someone can step up. Maybe someone will feel confident enough to step up. Nobody steps up and we play very, very poorly. Again, it just feels like every time we take like one little small step, we have like something a little positive to talk about. We just go back to kind of, it's like week one for us. It's like we don't know what we're doing. So, and I've seen that happen a repeated amount of time, and it's just frustrating that we can't really find any sort of continuity with this team.
no, yeah, I mean, honestly, it's frustrating. I mean, it's you can't say it's not frustrating. It is frustrating, even with the like. And I'm an optimistic person. Like I try to be as optimistic as I can about the team, but I can't deny that it's not frustrating. I can't deny that it's everything's okay as of right now, right? Like it's not okay. It's crap. It's shit. Like like I hope it changes, but if it doesn't, then it's just like, well, I guess we wait till next year. I don't know. And it's kind of sad to say that when you think about it.
Well, you have two DP spots next year, and you still have that max TAM spot, and you might move on from a player like Alvarez. So you could have some potential movement next year. But I'm talking about the rest of this year. I don't just want to lose every game the rest of the year. If you're in a season, you want to make the most out of it. That's kind of my mentality. Even if you don't win trophies, like win some games, win some fun games. Don't just quit, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, hopefully we find something. But right now, it's not looking too good.
Yeah. Hopefully we do find something. But anyways, I think that's it for our recap of Orlando. I know we kind of went off on Orlando, but still though, like I guess I guess with Orlando, this kind of led to this conversation. But I guess we're that's our recap of Orlando. Unless you have any other pointers or anything you want to say about that game.
Now that's pretty much it.
All right then. All right then. I guess we can move on. We'll talk about a little bit about Galaxy news. We kind of mentioned it already. Galaxy will face the Seattle Sounders in the round of 32 in the U.S. Open Cup on May 10th, which again, like you mentioned, we've been 10. We haven't beaten Seattle in 10 games, and we're going into a knockout tournament where it's one and done. I mean, we're at home. That's a good thing. But at the end of the day, like I don't know how I feel about that game. So yeah, that game is happening next week. And then also, I guess in other Galaxy news, Galaxy 2 will face Wrexham FC, which is, if you know who Wrexham is, they are the, I guess, global team that got like a lot of hype because Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, right? That's his name. The other guy, I forget his name. They bought that team, and they recently just got into relegated or not relegated, promoted to League Two in English football. So that it's this whole story about getting this small club, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows what Wrexham is, but for those who don't know, like that's who Wrexham is. So yeah, Galaxy 2 is going to face them in the summer. I believe it was in July. I forget the actual date, but yeah, I mean, we can go back into the Seattle game for a little bit, and I know we kind of touched upon it. Yeah, I don't know how confident we feel about going against Seattle in the U.S. Open Cup.
Well, it depends who Seattle plays. Are they going to play their starters, or are they going to play like they're all their backups? Like that really kind of depends. Or how seriously are the Galaxy going to take it? It just depends on how seriously are both teams going to take it. If both teams take it extremely seriously, then I think Seattle's going to win because they are the better team. But if the Galaxy take the game a little more seriously than Seattle and play some more starters than they do because Seattle's on the road and maybe Seattle just wants the supporter shield or they want to win MLS Cup or something, they have priorities elsewhere, then maybe we can get by that game. I don't know what they're going to go into it like, but I mean, I really want to win a trophy, just any trophy. And I mean, I'd take anything at this point. So getting something started would be nice.
Right. I will say, I think the U.S. Open Cup might be our best chance of winning something this season
because the best teams don't always win it that often.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is, yeah, that is a good, case, right? And but no, I mean, yeah, it depends on how Seattle goes into this game. Are they gonna, focus on, MLS, which again, they're gonna want to win it. They're gonna want to compete. I'm not saying they're just not gonna try, but Seattle, could go into a different formation or different tactics into that game. Are they gonna use their starters? Are they not gonna use their starters? I think if I'm the Galaxy, you use your starters. Because again, this might be the only trophy you could possibly win this season. And considering that you had a good tournament last year, you can build up
not really.
Well, I mean, we did get knocked down by Sacramento, but hey, to be fair, Sacramento did make the finals, so credit to them. It's not like if we lost to Sacramento, they didn't make it. If we lost to like Sacramento, like the first round, okay, obviously we didn't, that wasn't good, but they end up going to the finals, so I guess that kind of makes up for it. But still, regardless, the Galaxy did have a, I guess, solid U.S. Open Cup last year, and that you can build upon that this season. And yeah, if I'm the Galaxy, I try on that one, All right, then. So now we can get into our preview of Colorado. LA Galaxy will be back at home to host the Colorado Rapids. Colorado are currently in 12th place in the Western Conference with a record of 1-6-3. Of course, this is another matchup where, it's not the best opponent. And honestly, I think this can go either two ways. This could be a game where we can bounce back, or this could be another game where we just shit the bed. So, we're going up against Colorado this week on Star Wars night, which historically we haven't been that great on Star Wars night anyways until last season, where I think we finally won our first game on Star Wars night. I know that's like a weird stat, but so we go up against Colorado. Kevin Cabral's return could be his revenge game, possibly. But yeah, we face Colorado this week, and it's the first game of this busy May schedule. And I mean, what are your thoughts about going to Colorado this week, or Colorado coming into us?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado is not a very good team this year and last year, especially on the road. They've really struggled on the road. Last year, I think they won one road game all year. This year, I think they have one road win so far. So I guess they're doing a little bit better compared to how they did last year. But still, though, I don't think Colorado is a very good team. And I mean, it depends for the Galaxy. Like, how are they going to show up? Are they going to play like they did versus LAFC and Austin at home? Is that the Galaxy who's going to show up? Or are we going to see the Houston Orlando Galaxy? If we see the LAFC Austin Galaxy, then maybe I think they have a good chance to do some good things. But if we see the Houston, Orlando Galaxy, where they just concede cheap goals and they can't score and they have zero offense and they're going to lose the game. So, I mean, it's really on the players to get together and they need to put in a good performance if they want to turn the season around. And like we said, it's not early in the season anymore. It's not week 2 or 3. It's week 10 now, going on week 11 next week. So, I mean, it's time to get it done. And hopefully we get 3 points, but I don't know. This team's just too inconsistent. And more times than not, they've been pretty bad and they haven't really put in good performances. But this is a good opportunity to either turn the season not I'm not going to say around, but at least get some points on the board, or just play like you always have and just go further down in the table.
Right. Good thing, of course, what we didn't have this week or last week against Orlando was no Ricky Puig. You're going to have Ricky Puig back in the lineup for this game, so that's a good thing. And of course, hopefully that will, I think that hopefully that will get the Galaxy where we played against Austin and LAFC and stuff like that, right? Hopefully that's the Galaxy we get with Ricky coming back. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on what version we're gonna get, and hopefully we get the good version of the Galaxy. But
which isn't often, sadly.
Yeah, which isn't often. But I think this is a winnable game. It's against Colorado. They're not that great. Like you said, they haven't been good on the road, and this is an opportunity to get back on the board. But this is also a game where I can see the Galaxy just, shit the bed. So hopefully the Galaxy come in with a good game plan. Their players are motivated and focused to get into this game. And again, like I said, this is going to be the start of a busy May schedule. We got Colorado, then we got Seattle. You got a Cali Classico after that U.S. Open game. Then you got Columbus, United. You got Charlotte, RSL. It's a really busy schedule. You got 7 games in 1 month. That's not easy. And again, we're gonna have to see what this Galaxy team can do, and hopefully, they can somewhat turn it around this month. But again, now we got to shift into this. Hey, we're not in the beginning of the season anymore. We got to start gaining points. We got to start climbing up the table. And I will say, when you're at rock bottom, there's only one way to go up, and that's, of course, up. So this is the moment where the Galaxy need to, now get their things and start climbing up. So hopefully that's this game against Colorado, but we're just gonna have to see.
Hopefully Greek Van has been preparing for all week for this, because like last week they didn't look prepared at all. Like it's on the team leaders too, like Chicharito, the captain, some other veterans on the team. It's up to them to get the players motivated to play and get the positions right, especially on the coach. So hopefully they've been preparing all week. Hopefully they're frustrated by what they saw last game and they come out with something better, because it's not been good enough this season. And this is a good opportunity and you have to get it done somehow.
Yeah, it is a good opportunity. And we did hear an interesting quote from Chicharito, saying, how aren't these players motivated? You get paid every 15 days. And, how does that not motivate you? How does not playing for the Galaxy motivate you? So hopefully, that sort of message got across the board with the players as well. And, hopefully they do get motivated. They realize that this week is a good opportunity to bounce back. And, and of course, in front of, your house and with your supporters. And also ACB is coming back this week, which, by the way, this past weekend was an absolute civil war in the Galaxy community because of that. But again, you get one supporter group back into the building, I guess. So, you have some things to fight for and you have some things to motivate you. So hopefully that message gets through and the Galaxy get the 3 points. That's all we can hope for. I think that's it really for the preview for Colorado, unless you have any other pointers.
No, I mean, hopefully we show up. That's it. I mean, it starts with showing up. It starts with playing better than we did last week, playing with more effort. Last week, there was a lack of passion, a lack of effort. We all saw it. And this week, hopefully it turns around at home.
Yeah, hopefully. We can only hope for the best. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. Can't thank you guys enough for listening and watching. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me at Insider Galaxy on Instagram, on Twitter. Go follow the Galaxy Central on Instagram. So yeah, go follow us on the social medias. And like I said, can't thank you guys enough. Be a friend, tell a friend about the podcast. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. and hopefully we get the 3 points. And anything you want to say to the listeners before we go?
No, that'll do it.
All right, then let's move it on out. Like I said, thank you guys, and G's up.
7 words.